Slater Designs Firewire Sci-Fi 2.0 was pretty epic. The conditions were high tide, pretty sloppy, and not really that great, but the board performed pretty amazing. I hadn't ridden quads in quite a while, and let me tell you, it felt good. It being slightly oversized, I think, helped when it was kind of that crappier conditions, but one or two times I did kind of bog, because I think the board is more so for back foot surfers. As you can see, the back area of it is, you know, pretty thick, and it keeps its thickness all the way through the back. So that's what's nice, because it does stay very thick. I think for me, once I realized that and I started putting more on my back foot with turns and all that, it felt a lot better. At first, I wanted to ride it like I ride all my boards now and ride more front-footed. But then once I had my feet more on the back and I was using my back to pivot more, that's when the board really came alive. It actually did extremely well to the Ibolic non-volcanic in like choppier, not very great waves. That was like a plus, because you know, they say the epoxy isn't great when it's choppy, but I was like getting into the waves early and just kind of doing like a Machado wait until it was time to shred. I'm really impressed with the double bat tail, if that's, or the double bat tail. It rides really well in conjunction with these KS endorphin fins, so I was super stoked on that. I'll give you a little close-up here. So, you know, this area really lets you just shred in even like the crappiest conditions. Again, it's a short board, but that's where I was really impressed, was I was still groveling better than I thought I could have groveled on this board. It can definitely grovel. There was times I would even step up here and I would essentially just kind of mimic my, you know, Revo Max groveling. And you can ride up here. It keeps a lot of foam up here, and it does maintain stability. Which I like too, is that it actually did a really good job of like being stable, but then also letting me loosen it up. And these quads, I think, are like the best quads I've ridden. I mean, I'm not really a quad guy, but what I really liked is how that back of the board right there, it really lets you like do the top hits. When you want to go up and just top hit it and come back down, that felt really good. And then after I realized, oh, I gotta like surf on my back foot a little more, that's when I really started just, you know, shredding. One thing the board is really sick at is roundhouses. It's like the roundhouse master. We might have some comments in here. Let's see. I Marie, much love. I'm going around showing small creators love. Well, thank you, I Marie. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. And what I really like too about the board is that, like, again, it was like high tide, crappy, windy. The sun wasn't out. I was like, oh, this kind of sucks. But it was really good at just going up, hitting it, coming back down. And again, this tail is so crazy that at first you're like, how's that thing even gonna work? But once you start really just letting the board do the work and surfing more off your back foot, I think it really comes alive. So that was a really cool aspect that I really liked about the first surf. Again, I was a little apprehensive about how good this would grovel, but it groveled really well. Again, it's slightly oversized for me at 6'2", 38.9 liters. So it's a chunky boy. I'm 5'10", 172, 170 on a good day. But I really like the paddle power, but don't be fooled. It's still a pointy nose shortboard. This gets pointy. So that's what's interesting, because it has the foam distributed all the way up here. So it keeps the point, or it keeps the float, even though like you look down and you're like, I'm on a pointy board shortboard. So that was really interesting to me. And let me show you a little closer here too. So, once you kind of realize that this area, it wants your foot to be on this back area. Jonas, thank you, and Marie, thank you. I'm not sure how to reply to you right now, but I really liked how this, once you started surfing off your back foot, it would allow the whole board to come alive. Again, at first I wanted to surf it more in the center, how I usually surf these surfboards, but with the pointy nose, if you push down too much up here, you're gonna bog. And I had to learn the hard way. But what I really like too is that once you readjust yourself and, stop surfing it more up here, then you're like, all right, I'm gonna surf it like Kelly Slater. Again, this is a Kelly Slater board, so I think he is more of a back foot surfer. I'm more a front foot surfer, so I really had to adjust and start riding it more on the back foot. I really like too is that because it has the Tomo channels right here, I could really feel each of these working its magic. And again, because it's pretty forgiving for a shortboard, I was pretty keen and stoked on how, when I was riding it, even though it was kind of choppy, I never felt like it was out of control. Like on the mashup, which is a super sick board as well, it can kind of feel a little out of control. But this is like smooth and steady as a rock, which I really liked because, again, it's shortboard. But with this tail and with these fins, the combo really makes it really nice. So I think the first surf was a great success. And I was still a little nervous because I thought that the tide was high, the waves weren't going to be that powerful, etc. But I was really impressed with how good it did in, I would say, like kind of crappy conditions. It was probably waist to chest, but kind of lully and, cloudy and windy. By the end of the session, it was kind of doing that high tide thing where you paddle and you stand up and it's like you're just pumping, waiting for the wave to get going. But I had a few waves on this where I would go and then roundhouse, hit it, roundhouse, hit it, do little top hits. And that was really cool because it felt like I was riding a grovelly board when really this isn't marketed as a groveler. Let me show you a close-up of these fins because the fins are actually really nice. And I didn't think I was gonna like the fins that much. Sorry, I can't, the tsunami is canceled. So no tsunami, unfortunately. But these fins are pretty amazing. I am very keen on them. And again, this tail is wild. And you can really see how this thing would work well on, not very good waves. I'm trying to answer y'all's chats in here, but for some reason I don't see any where to answer. They kind of changed the vertical live stream thing, I think. But I really liked how the fins, how light they were, really let the board kind of come alive. If these were more stiffer, heavier material, I think it would have done a little worse in like the crappier quote unquote waves. And then up here I wanted to show you because it does keep its thickness very much all the way up here. It's still quite thick there. So on my first couple waves, I was actually, like I was saying, catching up here towards the top of the board. But then when I stopped and readjusted and kind of was like, all right, I got to surf like Kelly, I got to step back here. Then I started actually shredding it harder. And by the end of the session, I was getting like some really good waves. So first session was really amazing. Again, when I first stood up on the board, I was like, oh God, this is a short board. Pointy nose short board. This is pointy. That's not my style anymore. I want the round Revo Max short board. But once I took a breath, said my meditations, refocused, realigned, I started shredding like Kelly and it felt really, really good. So overall, this board, I would give it so far a thumbs up. The Ibolic non-volcanic is, I think, worked really good. It's better than helium for kind of crappy, like choppy waves, because it's not going to get bucked around as much. And then you add that with the tail, the bat wing tail or double bat tail, it lets you, each of these pivot points lets you stay locked in when it does kind of become like you're on a rodeo, like you're on a horse and it's a bucking bronco or whatever. These do a really good job of keeping you stable as you're getting bucked around on a choppy wave. Again, it was choppy. Most other people were on like a fishy board or a long board, and this is definitely the most grovelly pointy nose board I've ridden in a while. Whenever I step on a pointy nose board these days, right away I'm like, wow, this thing is a skim board. It's like, I really got to work this thing. You do have to work this a little bit, but it's not as crazy as like probably some of the other short boards. So I think it's a great like middle option between, you want the short board, you want the pointy nose, but then you also want it to like kind of be able to not get thrown around too much when it is choppy and when it's not like glassy and going off. So overall, again, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Definitely stoked to ride it a little more. The paddle power was great. It's almost 39 liters, which is kind of a lot for sure, but I really liked having all that foam under my chest. And then when I was on the wave, I actually was able to have a lot of speed because it does keep all the foam throughout. And even though it does get skinny up there, it stays fairly wide for a pointy nose shortboard up here. So overall, very nice, great success. And I'm gonna say the Sci-Fi 2.0, it gets my recommendation if you want like a shortboard that is a little different. You know, you could be the talk of the town. And I would just say I'd recommend it. This, again, I'm not really a quad guy, but with these quads, I felt like right at home, and I'm excited to ride these a little more because they felt great to me. Like, it didn't even feel terribly stiff. It actually felt really amazing, and I could tell how these fins mixed with the tail right here give you the hold and drive. But again, for roundhouses, it was like, I felt like I was the roundhouse master. It was just really fun doing roundhouses, and I'm kind of used to doing roundhouses on twin fins right now, which are a little more skatey, but this, you could really drive the bottom of the roundhouse, and then it would project you and you would still have speed. So I really like that about it. So overall, stoked, and shout out Firewire. Thank you guys per usual. All right, we out. Till next time, peace.